I am Euclid Rosales Yuxi, Library Technical Assistant at the Preservation and Conservation Laboratory, Heritage Library Division, NALIS. We ask you to keep your cameras off and your mics muted. You are invited to type your questions in the chat for the question and answer segment at the end of the webinar. Let me introduce our organization. The National Library and Information System Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, NALIS, is the country's coordinator of all library and information services. Beyond the Heritage Library, there are over 25 public libraries, 3 libraries in correctional institutions, libraries in secondary and primary schools, and special libraries in several government agencies, all administered by NALIS. Please visit our website, www.nalis.gov.tt, for more information about our services. We'll post the link in the chat of this webinar. One of NALIS's key responsibilities is to promote and preserve national heritage information. Though the National Library has a comprehensive collection of paper-based items and electronic audiovisual media, there is particular emphasis on materials with national and Caribbean origin, focus, and authorship. The Heritage Library, located on the 2nd floor of the National Library Building, Port of Spain, Trinidad, helps NALIS fulfill the goal of acquiring, promoting, and preserving national heritage information. Follow the Heritage Library Division on Facebook at NALIS HLDTT. See the link in the chat. Special collections acquired or donated to the Heritage Library Division consist of mainly traditional library items created by or of interest to a significant person or organization of Trinidad and Tobago. One would not be surprised to find within these collections books, newspapers, pamphlets, letters, film, and audio recordings. However, within several collections housed in the rare books room of the National Library, there is a mix of items often labeled memorabilia. The Preservation and Conservation Laboratory is responsible for ensuring the overall longevity of library materials with specific attention to the Heritage Library Division and its collection of historical importance. The PAC Lab, which was officially commissioned in 2013, helps NALIS fulfill its role as the International Federation of Library Association and Institution Preservation and Conservation, IFLA PAC, Regional Center for the English-speaking Caribbean. Additionally, this arm of Heritage Library Division advises public and private organizations on the care of their collections and artifacts. The PAC Lab has been serving the preservation and conservation needs of clients through fumigation, freeze drying, conservation treatments, collection, repair bindery services, disaster recovery, technical assistance, and preservation training. Take a narrated virtual tour of PAC Lab using the link in the chat. While we miss conducting our in-person training session, tours and workshops, we are happy that technology allows us to continue our outreach through these virtual sessions. Let me introduce the facilitator of today's webinar, Danielle Fraser. Danielle has served as the Library Conservator and the head of the Preservation and Conservation Laboratory, Heritage Library Division, NALIS, since 2008. Danielle holds a Master of Science in Information Studies and a Certificate of Advanced Studies in Conservation of Library and Archival Materials from the University of Texas at Austin. She was a 2008 Conservation Fellow of Library of Congress, Washington, D.C. She has been a member of the American Institute for Conservation and the Library Association of Trinidad and Tobago. Danielle enjoyed presenting papers at the annual meetings of regional association, including ACRIL and CORAL. I know she's looking forward to presenting at today's webinar. Across to you, Danielle.
Thank you, Euclid. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. As with anything affecting our collection, it's important to understand what it is. We'll begin with an introduction to mycology. The study of mold falls under this branch of science. You should understand the growth, effect, and hazard of mold. We'll look at the measures you can take to prevent mold growth and the actions you should take should mold occur in your collection. As we explore these topics, you will be asked to decide if certain statements are fake or fact using the polling option. I encourage everyone to participate. Your answers are polled anonymously, so don't worry about being known. So let's begin. Here's the first one. Mold are members of the plant kingdom. Is this fact or fake? You can enter your choice in the poll that you see on your screen. Is this fact or fake? Mold are members of the plant kingdom. Excellent. I think we have a good majority of persons voting. Okay, so let's see the results. And a majority of persons said that this is fact. Interesting. Let's see. Those of you who said fake were correct. Moles are not members of the plant kingdom. In fact, moles are members of the kingdom fungi, ranging from thousands of fungi species and varying from single-cell organisms called yeast to multicellular organisms like mushrooms and toadstools. Most fungi are somewhere in between. However, fungi plays a very important role in nature's cycle. Unlike plants, fungi cannot photosynthesize their nutrients. They nourish themselves by digesting dead or decayed organic matter on which they grow. A microscopic view of mold shows thread-like filaments called hyphae intertwined into a web or network referred to as mycelium. And mold grows from microscopic spores called conidia. Conidia are produced during the sexual reproductive phase from a specialized fruiting structure. For mold to be identified, there must be fruiting structures present. Mold spores are so lightweight, even the largest spore is buoyant enough to be carried long distances by air. Let's get our next question going, our next poll. Tell me, is this fact or fake? Mold spores are always round, no matter the species. Do you believe this is fact or fake? Remember, you can enter your choice on the poll that you see on your screen. Seeing a good number of people voting and making their selection. Do you think mold spores are always round? no matter the species? Great, we're seeing a lot of voting, submitting your choice. Oh, great, and we have quite a majority of people voting. So we're going to end the poll and let's show the results now. A majority of people felt that mold spores are not always round. So they put this statement as fake. So let's see. Yep, it is fake. The shape of the spore is determined by the species. A spore can be round, elongated, oblong, cylindrical, sickle cell shape. They can be just a single cell or even multicellular. And spores can range in size from 1 micrometer to 200 micrometers in length. And remember, 1 micrometer is 1 millionth of a meter. So these things are still pretty tiny, but you have quite a range of shapes and sizes depending on the species. Here's our next poll. In general, the same species of mold found inside a building are the same as found outdoors. Do you think this is fact or fake? In general, the same species of mold found inside a building are the same as found outdoors. Do you think this is fact or this is fake? Invite you to enter your choice if you haven't done so as yet. Is this fact or fake? The same species of mold found inside a building are the same as found outdoors. I think people are thinking rather hard on this one. It'll be interesting to see what the results are. Great, we have a good majority of persons voting. We've stopped the poll and we're going to share the results. A majority of people said that this is fake. So let's see how you did. This is a fact. Generally, the same species of mold found inside a building are the same as found outdoors. Typically, under normal conditions, the concentrations indoors should be much less than outdoor. And of course, this is because we're getting our fresh air circulating from the outdoors. So it tends to be just about the same type or species of mold, but the quantities ought to be much less indoors. The most common species in the tropics are Aspergillus and Penicillium. Now here's the other poll. Once a mold spore lands on a book or document, it will grow. Once a mold spore lands on a book or document, it will grow. Do you think that this is fact or fake? Enter the choice on the poll on your screen. Do you think this is fact or fake? Once a mold spore lands on a book or document, it will grow. Everyone's thinking hard about this one, but we're getting quite a number of votes. We wait just a couple more seconds. Do you think this is fact or fake? Once a mold spore lands on a book or document, it will grow. Excellent. Let's see the results. Just by a very, very narrow margin, we have a majority of people saying that this is fact. So let's see. It is fake. The environmental conditions must be suitable for growth or for germination to begin. So just by landing on a book is not enough. The environmental conditions must be suitable for germination. Then the spore swells and a germ tube extends outward and branches as it continues to elongate. Though moisture is considered a major factor for mold growth, heat, stagnant air, and darkness help make the perfect conditions for mold. Let's have our next poll. Tell me, is this fact or fake? Mold grows outwards from a central point in a circular pattern. Is that fact or fake? That you have mold growing outwards from a central point in a circular pattern. Enter your choice in the poll. Do you believe this statement to be fact or fake? Right, we have quite a number of responses in. We'll just wait a couple more seconds. Enter your choice. Is this fact or fake? Mold grows outward from a central point in a circular pattern. All right, let's see the results. A majority of you said fact. Let's see if you are correct. It is a fact. Mold grows in a way to ensure that the hyphae are always spreading outward and seeking nutrients. So the most efficient way to do that would be in a circular pattern. Mold secretes enzymes to break down organic substrate into the necessary nutrients and absorbs them through the walls of the hyphae. Here's our next poll. Molds are only able to digest certain types of organic materials. Do you think this is a fact or is it fake? Molds are only able to digest certain types of organic materials. What's your choice? You can enter your selection on the poll on your screen. Molds are only able to digest certain types of organic materials. Do you believe this to be fact or fake? We wait just a couple more seconds. A few more seconds for you to enter your choice. Do you believe this to be fact or fake? Great, let's see what the results are. A majority of you said that this sounds like a fact. So let's see. This is actually fake. Molds secrete a variety of enzymes able to break down any organic material. Sugar, starches, proteins, anything can be broken down by mold if it's organic. Now, sometimes you may see mold growing on inorganic materials like glass, metals, maybe perhaps plastics. These non-organic materials can support growth if there are residues of organic materials on their surfaces. So for instance, dust or perhaps grimy fingerprints, etc. Those could be the reasons why you have mold growth happening on inorganic materials. Here's our next poll. Mold spores remain viable for only a short period of time. Is this true? Mold spores remain viable for only a short period of time. Do you believe that this is fact or fake? Do you believe mold spores remain viable just for a short period of time? Is this fact or fake? You can enter your choice. We have a strong lead going. Remember, you're entering your choice on the poll that you see on the screen. And let's see what the results are. A majority of you thought that this statement, mold spores remain viable for only a short period, to be fake. Let's see. Those who said fake, you were correct. Spores remain dormant or simply inactive until the right conditions. Some species of mold spores can remain viable for many years, while some might survive only a few hours. Spores decrease their viability decreases as spores age. I have another one for you. Is mold growth either black or white? Are those the only colors we see for mold? Can mold growth be either black or white? Do you think this is a fact or fake? Enter your choice on the poll. Right, you should see the poll coming up. We have quite a lot of voting going on. It's going to be interesting to see the results. What's your thought? Do you think that mold growth is either black or white? Those are the only colors. Is this fact or fake? Great. So we have stopped the voting. Let's see the results. A majority of you have said that this is, in fact, fake. So let's see. You were correct. Those who said fake. Often, yes, majority of times we see black or white when it relates to mold growth, but it can be different colors depending on the substrate. And right here in this image, you see a very almost fluorescent orange colored mold here based on it growing and taking that color off of some of the glues and the adhesive. Let's get our next question going. Dust can be mistaken as mold. Is this a fact or fake? Dust can be mistaken as mold. Is this a fact or fake? Have you yourself done it, or is it not possible? Is this a fact or fake? Enter your response in the poll. Great. Thank you for all of you who are voting. We're seeing your results coming in. Is this fact or fake? Dust can be mistaken as mold. I'm just going to wait a couple more seconds. All right. Let's share the results. And a majority of persons have said that this is a fact. All right. right, let's see. Fuzzy appearance that you have for heavy dust can often be mistaken as mold. But how do you tell the difference? One major thing is that mold actually grows into the surface or the substrate, as opposed to dust, which would rest on the surface. Gravity will put dust on top of a horizontal surface. And there may be a characteristic musty or moldy smell associated with the growth of mold. An active mold will be damp and smear if brushed, as opposed to dust most times remains very dry. How about this one? Everyone has the same reaction to mold. Do you think this is a fact or fake? Everyone has the same reaction to mold. Do you think this is fact or fake? You can enter your choice here. Is it fact or fake? Everyone has the same reaction to mold. Great. We see folks are still entering their choices. All right, but I think we have a majority of votes. So let's see the results. A majority of folks have said that this is in fact fake. All right, let's see. True, it is fake. Normal levels of mold do not usually affect healthy individuals. Risk of health effects from mold exposure increases when in very contaminated environments. The reactions can vary depending on the type of species of mold, the amount of mold, the person's exposure time, and as well their susceptibility to mold. Just to get into it a little bit more, from the Canadian Conservation Institute Technical Bulletin, which we will have in the handout at the end of this workshop, we saw them list a number of health effects. So, for instance, you may have an irritation, may suffer an allergic reaction, perhaps a reaction to toxins, as well as an infection. So, just to speak a little bit on what they would have mentioned, they said that some mold produce microbial VOCs or volatile organic compounds, which give the characteristic moldy, musty, earthy smell. These may be responsible for symptoms of headaches, dizziness, eye and mucous membrane irritation. As with respect to allergic reactions, most mold spores are known to be allergens. That is, a substance which causes an allergic reaction. Persons who are allergic may develop symptoms after they've inhaled mold spores or perhaps have had mold spores or mold particles land on their skin. You can experience hay fever like symptoms. It may even aggravate pre existing health conditions such as asthma. And mold can produce substances which cause a toxic response, that is, mycotoxins. Sampling and testing by a mycologist can determine whether mold is toxic, and these can cause irritation of the mucous membrane, rashes on your skin, dizziness, nausea, suppression of the immune system, birth defects, cancer. Infections are not very common when exposed to molds that grow indoors. However, it can occur in individuals with compromised immune systems due to disease or perhaps because of drug treatment. So look out for those persons developing nasal irritation, burning, itchiness, stuffiness, congestion. They may develop a cough, shortness of breath, perhaps even headaches, problems with concentrating, fatigue, lightheadedness, etc. Perhaps they may get burning or irritated eyes with blurry vision, skin rash, low grade fever, or flu like symptoms. So, we would want to go about preventing mold given that there are a range of health reactions. So, answer for me, is this a fact or fake? Cleaning is enough to prevent mold growth in our collection. Do you think this is a fact or fake? Is that going to be enough once I clean? Will that prevent mold growth in our collections? Do you think this is a fact or fake? We'll wait a few more seconds just to be sure we have a majority. Do you think cleaning is enough to prevent mold growth in our collection? You could enter your choice. Great. Let's see what the results are. A majority of persons said that this is fake. Let's see. Yeah, it is. Cleaning is not going to be enough. Mold is everywhere. It's impossible to remove mold spores, all mold spores from your collections. The most effective strategy is to implement environmental conditions which inhibit mold growth, because you're going to have mold being present, but we have to implement environmental conditions which inhibit mold growth. This is going to be the most effective way of dealing with mold. So, this strategy can include reducing mold spores by limiting the amount of spores that enter through windows, air conditioning, filtration, etc. We can control the nutrient sources. Dust is a major source of mold spores as well as nutrients. So, cleaning and maintaining the collection is important, but just that it's not going to be the only thing that you do. Because you also want to reduce the risk of mold growth by reducing the extended high RH, because mold growth depends on just how much water vapor items would absorb. You also would want to ensure that the dehumidification controls on the air conditioning units are keeping your RH low, that you have good air circulation going. This ensures that you are keeping the air moving, particularly from your exterior walls. You want to maintain a good distance there. And consider that low temperatures, along with the lower RH or relative humidity, will benefit your collections. So, again, maintaining a low RH or relative humidity, maintaining good air circulation, keeping regular inspections so that you're looking at your collections and seeing what's going on with them. You want to be sure that you're regularly cleaning and removing the accumulation of dust. Isolate any new or incoming items and inspect them well before adding them to your collection. Guard against water leaks and separate food, plants from your storage areas. Now, just to mention, the way we monitor some of these environmental conditions here at NALIS is that we use some of these tools. Again, this is not a product endorsement, but simply by way of sharing information. We use what you see on the left, the environmental monitor. It's a handheld device that's able to measure light, temperature, as well as relative humidity. And on the right, you see a preservation environmental monitor, or a PEM. It's a data logger that records temperature and RH, and it does this continuously, and the information is downloadable using a flash drive. Now, with respect to mold responding, you want to consider the health risk. Protecting staff is going to be one of the key things you do. Isolate the affected items or the collection or the area, identify and eliminate the cause. Because remember, we said it's not just having mold present that would cause mold to grow. There must be conditions that are ideal for mold. So examine, identify, and eliminate the cause, deactivate the mold growth, dry or freeze collections, especially if they are wet, and clean the affected items and the area, and then return and monitor. So let's explore this a little more. Here's another question for our polls. A good dust mask is enough protection against mold. Remember, I said you want to be sure to provide protection for your staff or protection for anyone who's handling and dealing with these items. So do you think a good dust mask is enough protection against mold? Remember just how tiny mold spores are. So what do you think? Is that going to be enough protection? You can enter your choice. We'll wait just a few more seconds. Do you think a good dust mask is enough protection against mold? Excellent. Let's see the results. This is, in fact, majority of us have said this is fake. So let's see. You were correct. This is fake. A dust mask is not going to be enough. Personal protective equipment, or PPE, should be worn when handling moldy items or working in a mold contaminated area. I want to just illustrate here, we have someone decked out in full PPE. It includes a coverall or suit made out of Tyvek, a breathable material, but one that is able to block out particulates. She also has on goggles as well as a mask and gloves on her hands. Now, there's some recommendations put forward by the Canadian Conservation Institute looking at health requirements, etc. And they've put together a really wonderful table, but I want to highlight just a few things to consider from that table. So if you're dealing with a relatively small outbreak, if we could term it that, a small area of mold growth, wearing a disposable respirator, N95 or N900 disposable respirator would be the minimum respiratory protection required. And it's also recommended that you have disposable gloves and protective goggles. Now, if it's a more medium size or large to extensive, you see that the level of protection goes up. So it's requiring that you have an N100 respirator, full face, if it's more large or extensive contamination, and that in addition to the disposable gloves and the protective goggles, that you also have protective clothing. And if it's a really extensive contamination, that clothing should be one that covers the head as well as your boots being covered. So these are just some of the minimum considerations based on the type of contamination you may be dealing with. So as we're talking PPE, here's another poll for you. You can enter your choice. All PPE are appropriate for every individual. So it doesn't matter. All PPE, we can just bulk buy for all of our staff members and or whoever is dealing with our collections, all PPE are appropriate for every individual. Do you think this is fact or fake? Great, I'm seeing voting coming in. All PPE are appropriate for every individual. Is this a fact or fake? All right, great. I think we have a good majority. So let's see the results. A majority have said that this is fake. All right, so let's see. You were correct. Fake. The fit of PPE can vary according to the type of PPE, the brand or the manufacturer of it, as well as the facial and body features of individuals. So, for instance, men with beards, the PPE that they're putting on, a mask, etc., could fit differently to someone who has a very smooth face. Sensitivities to latex and other materials should also be considered. So, for PPE, it's not a one type suits all. Question: you must never reuse PPE. Let's get our next poll started. Make your choice. You must never reuse PPE. Is this statement fact or fake? You must never reuse PPE. Is this statement fact or fake? Great, and I think we have quite a majority of people voting. So let's see the results. A majority of you have said that this is fact. You must never use PPE. Let's see. Sorry, it was a little bit of a trick question because the answer is actually it depends. Disposable PPE should be discarded. And in fact, it's recommended that you place them in thick plastic garbage bags and discard them in an outdoor garbage container to be sure that there's no contamination. However, you can reuse coveralls, those things that are long sleeve, all the way down your legs, etc. You can reuse those, launder them according to the instructions separately. Goggles and respirators can be reused. They can be cleaned with a solution of ethanol and water. So, and you should isolate the affected items. This is to ensure that we avoid the spreading of spores by quarantining the items, sealing off the space, etc. And it's really important that we identify what caused the mold growth and resolve that problem as soon as possible. We often tell our clients that we're assisting that it does not make sense to do cleaning of your items to clean mold or to um, do anything to stop the mold on the items themselves if the causes for the mold growth are not handled or dealt with. So, how do you? You can halt mold growth by modifying environmental conditions. Is this statement a fact or fake? You can halt mold growth by modifying environmental conditions. Do you think this statement is fact or fake? Be sure to enter your response in the poll. Do you think this is fact or fake? You can halt mold growth by modifying environmental conditions. We'll wait just a few more seconds. Ah, actually, I think we have a strong majority here. So let's see the results. quite a strong majority, 94% of you who voted have stated that this is fact. So let's see. You were correct. You can halt mold growth by modifying environmental conditions. Remember, I said that is what pushes or determines the mold growth happening in your collection. So removing the sources of moisture, perhaps there might be a leak, perhaps um, there might be a presence of moisture that you're not aware of from an AC unit even. Remove those sources of moisture and then work on reducing the RH and temperature. And if it's really at a crisis point, it may require you installing a dehumidifier in order to help reduce the RH, which is the relative humidity, the amount of moisture that's in the air. And just these two moves alone can be very significant in helping to slow down the growth of mold. Here's our last question. Lysol, and we're probably really familiar with it. They say it's effective for mold, but is it effective in cleaning mold on books and documents? Do you think this is a fact or fake? Lysol is effective in cleaning mold on books and documents. Fact or fake? All right, I'm seeing responses coming in. Lysol, is it effective in cleaning mold on books and documents? Excellent. Let's see the results. 88% said that this statement is fake. And you are all correct. These quick cures like Lysol and bleach may actually cause damage to the items and they won't necessarily prevent the regrowth. Remember, again, it's going to be important to control the environmental conditions in order to prevent mold from growing. Now, yes, while Lysol and bleach are ideal for non-organic surfaces, for furniture, um, bedding, etc., all those things, perhaps yes, but we do not recommend it for dealing with books and documents. So we're just at the end of our webinar here. I thank you so very much for attending Dealing with Mold. Feel free to put your questions in the chat or to email me. My email is up on the screen. We'll also add to the chat a resource list of print and online resources for dealing with mold. You receive an email today with a brief survey. Your feedback is important to us. We look forward to your responses. Also, be sure to join us on Wednesday, April 28th at 1 p.m. local time for our next Family Heirloom Preservation Clinic. We'll focus on the effect of dust on our library and archival collections. And given the current happenings in the Caribbean region, I think this is one that is going to be of importance. So do join us for our preservation clinic. And we would also love for you to join us on Wednesday, April 12th at 1 p.m. local time for the webinar Care and Handling. We provide standards, tips, and techniques for dealing with library and archival collections. The registration links for both of these webinars are posted in the chat, and we hope that you will join us for them. So now we'll pause for our questions.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kirby Souza. So we have a question here. If you have mold, does volcanic ash further contribute to mold? That's very interesting. Danielle?
Yes, thank you. The question, just making sure I had that right. If you have mold, does volcanic ash contribute further to the
Yes.
mold? So as we were as we were discussing, the environmental conditions play a major role as it relates to mold growth. And those conditions tend to be humidity, temperature, light, as well as air circulation. Presence of volcanic ash, I do not believe it will contribute further to the mold. However, if your conditions remain where you have a high relative humidity, high temperature, poor air circulation, then the mold growth would more than likely continue.
There's one here asking what can be used to clean mold on books?
Right. So I did mention that, oh, we should not use Lysol. Um, and I really wanted to emphasize that because I had encountered um, an organization that indicated that that was going to be their next steps with respect to dealing with the mold. Unfortunately, Lysol being a compound that we may not even know of what its chemical parts are, can be damaging and can cause staining and deterioration to the paper itself. So spraying those on something that's so absorbent like paper, our books, our photographs, etc., could be rather dangerous. Now, at the Preservation and Conservation Lab, we would remove mold on books using a controlled vacuum. This is a vacuum that has speed control to allow us to carefully handle and deal with fragile documents or papers, etc. It also has attached to it a HEPA or HEPA filter. That is one that allows the mold spores to be captured. Remember, we mentioned the size of mold spores being as small as 1 millionth of a meter. So they're very
Wow.
tiny, often not visible to the eyes. And so the HEPA filter is one that's designed in order to capture the mold spores within it, the vacuum bag itself. Um, that suction using a vacuum with that HEPA filter in an isolated space, want to ensure that the mold spores are not being recirculated into a space where people are occupied. In the lab, we use a fume hood, which has an exhaust at the top of it in order to remove the air that's being contained in the fume hood. It's recommended that if you don't have those bits of equipment, using a very soft brush and working outside where you are properly attired in PPE is a good method of trying to remove mold, right? So if you don't have the HEPA filter vacuum along with a fume hood where you can work in an isolated space and ensure that you capture all the mold spores, it's recommended that you move the mold cleaning that you're doing to the outdoors, perhaps in a covered space if the weather is not right. Move that cleaning to the outdoors and using soft brushes, removing the mold spores, ensuring that the mold spores are just going off into the external environment, not recirculating into an enclosed space.
So Daniel, since you're speaking on vacuums, we have a question here. Are the vacuums that you're speaking about locally provided or available?
The vacuums that we purchased at the Preservation and Conservation Lab, NALIS, were not available locally. We gained them through one of the preservation suppliers that's pretty well known. However, I think rather than a type of vacuum, it's really about the qualities that the vacuum has. So I wouldn't say, oh, it has to be brought from a particular organization or location. You want to be sure that the vacuum has a variable speed. Usually most vacuums, when you flick on the on switch, that's the speed, full stop. It should be one that can be lowered down or slowed down enough to not be damaging to library or archival materials. The vacuum should also be equipped with a HEPA or HEPA filter. That just simply means a high efficiency particulate filter. It's actually grabbing those very tiny, tiny particles. And your vacuum should also come with attachments that are reduced in size, just in case you're handling and dealing with smaller items and books. It ought not to have the very large um, fitting for vacuuming carpets or furniture, etc. It should have something that's smaller that allows you to handle and deal with small documents and books, etc. So those are the three components you want to look at. A vacuum that has a variable speed, one that has a HEPA filter, HEPA filter attached to it, as well as micro or small attachments that allow you to deal and handle with library and archival materials. I just want to mention that yes, a recording of this webinar will be made available via the NALIS YouTube link. All participants who have been registered will receive an email as soon as the recording is made available.
How can you prevent molds on files or books? I'm guessing they are pertaining to collections. Can you help with advising them on this question?
Right. Preventing mold, the measures are going to be the same regardless of the type of materials that you're dealing with. You definitely want to be sure to reduce the amount of moisture, so any sources of moisture, as well as the relative humidity or the moisture level within the air, reducing the temperatures, as well as increasing circulation um, within the space as well. Those are some of the factors that we would want to look at. I want to just go back to the right. So removing the sources of moisture as well as reducing the RH and temperature are going to be some of the key things to be done. But as it relates to files, I'm guessing that you would want to know yes, sorry about that. Yes, you should be able to hear me now. Great.
Yes, Dan, you can go ahead.
Thank you. With respect to files, though, more than likely, the files are contained in a file cabinet, um, which tend, we are familiar with those in office spaces. They tend to be the metal types with the drawers, etc. Um, the file cabinet itself can actually produce what is called a bit of a micro environment, in the sense of it can hold humidity, especially if the external humidity is relatively high. So you may think, oh, well, I have them in a file cabinet, so that's keeping them safe from the moisture. But file cabinets are not completely airtight or moisture proof. So you actually do have moisture going in and perhaps getting locked and accumulated inside of the file cabinet. Um, so on a local level, in the sense of right inside of the file cabinet, one of the measures I've seen a client do with some level of success was to use um, dehumidifying cubes. These were filled with silica gel, which actually absorbs water. So it absorbed the moisture within the drawers themselves. So they would place one of those canisters on the inside of the drawers to help reduce and remove the amount of moisture. However, if it is that your external environment has a high humidity, which is getting into the file cabinets, causing that higher humidity, you will be continually having to replace and reactivate silica gel over and over. It's going to be important to work on the external environmental conditions that are happening wherever the file cabinet is stored. I think that has to be one of the major things first before trying to deal down to the file level. We have to get the environmental conditions controlled in order to ensure that we reduce the chances of mold happening.
And I must say, I find that very ironic because even yesterday I was working on a file cabinet that has mold. So thank you for that question.
Yeah, thank you. So Kareem, it seems like we have gotten to the end of the questions that were placed.
Yes, there are no more questions. Going to allow our participants 1 more minute. If not, they have any questions, feel free to email danielle.fraser@nalis.gov.tt.
Yes, we look forward to your emails, any queries or information sought as it pertains to your organization or perhaps even your collection. We can definitely advise.
Before you go, Daniel, can you just please provide where they can get the vacuums or brochure that you purchase your vacuum?
We purchased the vacuum from Gaylord. Again, I do not like endorsing any particular vendor. We're not paid to necessarily endorse them. But they carry a wide range of preservation and conservation equipment and supplies. And so we were able to acquire the HEPA filter variable speed vacuum that came with micro attachments to allow us to handle and deal with book and paper documents.
So I'm getting the thank you very much from most participants. So the floor is yours, Daniel. Thank you, everyone.
Great. I just want to mention again, we're going to have these upcoming webinars. Our Family Heirloom Preservation Clinic at the end of the month focuses on dust. And again, given the things that are happening regionally, I think this will be a really important one to attend. And care and handling is one of those key things that we can do in order to extend the life of our collection. So I really do hope that you join us for our coming webinars. We hope to see you soon. Thank you for all of your questions and your feedback. Do have a safe and good afternoon.